Welcome to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya on this beautiful 7th day of January. It is a Wednesday and my colleagues are right here with me. I am not alone. We have Mike Megwe and we have Giverson Maina. Happy New Year, Giverson.
Good morning, Vivian. How are you doing this morning?
I said Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year. And Happy New Year too.
By the way, when is the last day for that as a greeting? When should be the last day for us saying Happy New Year?
I'm not sure, but I think they are still new. Although it is getting harder because it's in January. But I think it's still new. It's 7 days past. Okay, so we keep having that as our greeting until the end of January? Until end of January, it will be still a new year.
Isn't that
but it also depends whether we've met or not.
Yeah, I also think if I've not met you, even if we meet in March, I tell you Happy New Year, please receive my Happy New Year greetings.
Oh, that's right.
All right, there you have it. We are all ready to inform you on matters that are taking center stage in different scenes right here in the country. And today being a Wednesday, you know that we usually have a segment dubbed Women at the Forefront. And I will be joined by one Alionya Rosaline, who's the chairperson, Young Captains ODM. And our topic of conversation is on just young women taking the lead. That is what we will be looking at as we get her view into the year 2026. That conversation will be coming to you just some minutes to 9 a.m. You definitely want to stay tuned for that. Mike?
Yeah, good morning to everyone who is watching KBC Channel 1. Yeah, there's something you've said about when the greetings Happy New Year zinafaa kuisha. Me, I was thinking by the time we are entering January 15th, mwaka imesonga. Yeah, but away from that, today is the viewpoint, being a Wednesday, and we look at everything politics and everything in between, including matters to do with education, given that the schools have reopened and others are continuing to reopen. There's also the matters to do with grade 10 placements, cases of funding, all that. We are going to talk about that later on with Honorable Wilson Sosion, who is a former NAT Secgen, and also he's a former nominated ODM MP, and Honorable Peter Orero, who is the Member of Parliament for Kibra constituency. That is a conversation that will be coming to you later on in the program. Interestingly, when you look at the roads in the last 6 days, we have lost more than 30 people on the roads. The carnage is becoming way too much. So where are we going wrong? That is a question that needs answers, because we cannot be losing lives just like that on the road, and it's a call upon everyone to be very mindful of how they are using the road, because you are not using the road alone. Before I hand you over to Giverson, first things first, let me give you a quote for today, a very simple quote. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. That a quote by Buddha. Good morning, Giverson Maina.
Good morning, Mike, and my friend right there. And on that note of accidents, actually, Mike, if you noted, and if you're very keen, you also notice that the accidents have reduced in some parts of the country. Say, for example, going to the Mount Kenya region, going to the coast region, and the accidents have increased from Nairobi, heading to the western part of Kenya. That is going to Eldoret, going to Kisumu, going to Kisii, going to Busia, and going to Bungoma, in this direction. And particularly on these Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, Busia, and Kisumu roads, all there, heading there, especially these Nairobi heading to Uganda. It's becoming a very notorious accident scene. But we hope all will be well, especially on that the government is now saying it's committed to dual this particular road. I think there's a lot of traffic on this part of, of the country. Now, on that note, and I want you to take you to news. And of course, we start with accident that occurred on Tuesday. 6 people lost their lives Tuesday morning in a grisly road accident at Fort Ternan on the Londiani Muhoroni road in Kericho County. And our police reported that multiple passengers sustained injuries in the accident involving a Busia-bound bus and are receiving treatment. And also families of 9 people who perished in an accident near Karai Center in Naivasha on Monday are blaming the Ministry of Transport for the rising cases of fatal accidents. They were speaking during the identification of the bodies.
The painful process of identifying loved ones who lost their lives in the Monday accident has kicked off at Naivasha Sub-County Hospital morgue. Families are having a difficult time processing the reality of a life without their kin. This even as some of the survivors of the accident that claimed 9 lives pointed at negligence from the driver.
Right from the word go tukianza kuenda, he was driving recklessly. So people are trying to shout, kumwambia achie at least I drive pole pole, but we reach safe. But he was ignorant. People shouting, but an act has key anything.
The Ministry of Transport is being urged to take stern action against motorists found contravening the law to prevent further losses of lives in what is fast becoming a gloomy start to the year.
Kwa nini hapa Naivasha tu peke yake Naivasha? Watu wamekufa hapa Naivasha. Sitani kama yeye mwenyewe amekuja kwa police station akaangalia makari zenye zimefanya ajali hapa Naivasha tu peke yake. Kwa nini asifuatilienge hii maneno? Na kwa nini asichukue makari mapofu atoe kwa barabara na wale watu walevi?
Lia tu mjukuu wangu mimi nimempoteza. Nilikuwa nampenda sana, hata akiondoka nikimwaga asubuhi. Nitakosa mjukuu wangu, lakini naomba serikali ile sheria tu ya barabarani msimu huu wajaribu kuweka mkazo.
Today, 2 separate accidents claimed the lives of 6 people and scores were injured, pointing to the need of urgent intervention before it's too late.
Nilikuwa kwa earphone nikisikiliza news, lakini niliona kitu si cha kawaida kimechange. Gari imegonga gari ingine ya lori ilikuwa imebeba vitu makaa.
Hii barabara tugeoba ipanuliwe, ijapokuwa rais alisema within the 6 months ambazo zinakuja hii barabara ya Rironi Mausamit Road itakuwa imepanuliwa, na hiyo tunaamini na tunaomba hiyo kitu iweze kuharakishwa.
In Meru County, the Matatu Owners Association has expressed concerns over what it's calling human errors causing the crashes. The association leadership is pointing to speeding, overloading and careless overtaking as primary causes of the fatal accidents on Kenyan roads.
Wawe waangalifu sana kwa barabara. Bila mnaendesha gari, kama iko mtu ametempa na kidhibiti mwendo, huyo ajue kabisa yeye ni makosa anafanya. Speed yetu tunataka 80, abiria wetu hakuna excess na pesa bei isipandishwe.
With at least 30 people dying in roads since January 1st this year, parents are urging drivers to exercise caution and remain vigilant on the roads to avoid any more losses.
Kama dereva ameenda trip nyingi, asifosidwe na asilazimishwe na wale wafanyikazi ama wale wakubwa wake waweze kufanya another trip. Wafanye tu trip moja mbili, dereva apumzike, alale, amke tena akiwa sawa sawa, dereva mwingine apewe gari.
All right, change focus to matters education now, where thousands of parents are pleading with the Ministry of Education to review the placement of their children in their senior secondary school, some citing distance, safety and career pathways as the reasons for the change. Now, the second review window, which opened on Tuesday, witnessed another huge turnout of parents trying their luck with the hope of finding workable alternatives ahead of the reporting date. As Joseph Wahungu now reports, some of the preferred schools are now turning parents away, refusing a direct engagement because there is simply no vacancy left even for the desperate.
Please look elsewhere. A notice turning away parents seeking placement for their children at Pangani Girls High School in Nairobi. This desperate search for vacancies has got parents flocking to Kenya High School and State House Girls, among other schools in Nairobi, hoping to find slots for their learners. While some are attracted to the status of the institutions, others are simply seeking safer and convenient alternatives for their children.
My child scored 64 points, and I was expecting maybe to be selected either C1 or C2. But now the school where he has been admitted is a C4, a day school, which is quite a distance from where we stay. So it means like I have to make a separate arrangement, maybe to have an accommodation.
Education stakeholders, however, are urging parents to accept placement issued by the Ministry of Education, arguing that learning can take place in any school.
All schools in the country are good. There's no bad school. A child can learn in any school and progress, regardless of the challenges of the schools that he's going or she is going.
The learning is all the same. The teachers are all the same. So it is hard for us parents, but let us talk to our kids. Let us embrace the schools that our kids have been called to.
Speaking to KBC Channel 1, Kenya Comprehensive Schools Heads Association, KECSHA National Chair Fuad Ali, argued that the placement process was fair, noting that learners were placed based on choices made by parents, with reviews only possible where vacancies exist.
So we went for the first time for review. Then after that it was not successful. We were told by the head teacher that it was not successful. So that it was rejected. So we were again to go back and try within from today up to 9th, the second time. But again from the ministry we got a communication that parents can go and start looking for schools for their kids. So that's why we came to this school.
It is a wish of every parent maybe to say, I want my child to go to Starehe, I want my child to go to Alliance. But we cannot take all of them to Alliance, to Starehe, to Kenya High, and so forth. I want to believe that me and you never went to the so-called national schools. But here we are today, holding very senior positions.
School heads have welcomed the timely disbursement of capitation funds, saying it has enabled seamless resumption of learning. On staffing, KECSHA Chair Ali has confirmed that the Teacher Service Commission has posted intern teachers, particularly to support junior and senior school transition under CBE.
Schools open without any problems. Children have reported to school and learning has started taking effect as from yesterday. We started receiving our capitation last week on Friday, just before the schools open. And by yesterday, Monday, all schools in the country had received capitation, both for junior schools and for primary, the FPE.
He also addressed concerns around infrastructure, saying most schools are now adequately equipped to handle grade 10 learners. On learning materials, Ford Ali assured parents that textbooks are already in schools.
Now, education stakeholders have renewed calls for the establishment of a career pathway counselling department at the basic learning institutions as a viable solution to the confusion surrounding pathway selection among learners under the competency-based education. Now, as Wycliffe Okech now reports, the stakeholders argue that learners at the basic learning institutions as well as their parents are not informed enough to determine the appropriate pathway on their own.
There is a glaring gap in the new competency-based education, inadequate knowledge of the learning and career pathways for learners. Parents and trade unionists argue that junior school learners are too young to decide their career pathways and need the guidance of qualified career counselors.
Remember, now we are giving these children this opportunity to choose a pathway at this tender age. And maybe we also depend on their parents to also give them direction. Some parents are not informed.
We are saying and we are repeating that issues of career is very paramount. And the TSC and the ministry should have long time ago put career masters or posted career masters. That's not what we are currently having in schools. We are currently having problems in terms of careers.
They say the majority of parents are not informed enough about the new education curriculum and the existing pathways, hence cannot adequately guide their children.
What hope do we have that this KJSA, a 14-year-old, you have chosen for him STEM? The very fact that he has passed mathematics does not mean that this student is destined to be a doctor. This good student could be going to be a good comedian.
So even someone to give them this counseling, like, you know, this is your direction, you can go the comedy direction. You know, whatever you're doing right now, you can go the pilot direction.
To solve the puzzle, the stakeholders are recommending the establishment of a career pathway department at the basic learning institutions to guide learners on career pathway choices before they transition from junior to senior schools.
Let us have a career department right from primary where we can sensitize these people and sensitize the parents.
Presently, the career pathway guidance role has largely been left to the teachers, whom the stakeholders argue need to be retooled if they are to discharge the mandate adequately.
We involve the team, we sit together, we discuss, and then eventually now when they'll be making a decision, when the learners will be making a decision of their choices, then they're able to understand that they have to respect the interest of the learner first.
And as the transition of learners from junior school to senior school continues, parents are being encouraged to utilize the Tuesday to Friday review window to ensure their children are placed in their pathways of interest. Reporting for Channel 1, I am Wycliffe Okage.
Now, as grade 10 students are prepared to transit to senior secondary schools across the country, a student from Mulaka village in Bukaya Ward, Mumias West constituency, is uncertain whether her dream of continuing her education and becoming an orthopedics will be realized after a life-changing accident. Elizabeth Okune, a former pupil at Emuberi Primary School, fell from a tree in November 2024 while in grade 8. And since then, she has been unable to walk and forced to stay away from school and stay home.
Elizabeth Okune now moves on a wheelchair after falling from a tree. Despite her condition, Okune sat for a final grade 9 examination in the hospital where she performed well and qualified to pursue the STEM pathway.
Nimequalify kuingia STEM na shule nimeitwa siwezi enda juu ya condition yangu. Sasa nafaa kwenda special school na kwa saa hii familia, wazazi hawatawezewa kunipeleka hiyo special school juu ya fees na hizo vitu zinatakikana huko.
Due to her medical condition, she needs to be enrolled in a special needs school after her parents were unable to seek proper medical services due to financial challenges.
Moi aliwekewa chuma kwa mgongo, tukarudi naye. Tuko naye hapa nyumbani. Na changamoto ambayo anapata tangu arudi hapa, hatujawahi kupata pesa kumrudisha Moi kufanyiwa checking. Nimeishi naye hapa, inatakana fanyiwe physio. Tulifanyako miezi 3, pesa zikanishinda.
Aliumia uti wa mgongo pale kwa lamba 1 na ambayo waga ina affect mwili wake mzima, hasa sana sehemu ya kiuno kuelekea chini. Na dada yetu, changamoto kama hii huwa inakuwa at times ngumu kuhandle, lakini waliweza kumanage kupitia surgery, wakamwekea plate, na saa hii mostly kitu ambacho anatakana kufanyiwa ni physiotherapy.
The situation is further compounded by the illness of her father, who is also physically disabled, and now the mother is the only breadwinner.
Nilikuwa tunapitia notes zenye walimu walikuwa wananiletea na ma textbooks na soma tu mwenyewe. Sijaenda shule tangu last year niumie.
However, a well-wisher Boniface Ngashira visited the family where he pledged to assist with medical expenses and other school essentials.
Omba na walipia SHA ya mwaka mzima ili mtoto aendelee kupata matibabu. Ndoto yake ya kuwa surgeon itimie. Na anahitaji special school ambayo inaweza mshughulikia ili aendeleshe masomo yake.
Upande wa shule ni changamoto. Niko tu hivi vile mmeniona. Naomba tu wasanii ambao wanaweza nisaidia, kwa sababu ni mtoto amefanya mtihani amepita, ni mtoto ambaye yuko kwa wheelchair, shule yake ni special, yenye hawezi enda shule ambayo ameitwa.
However, the family is still appealing to well-wishers for financial support to take their daughter to the hospital and also enroll her in a good senior school.
No, we wish all the best to Elizabeth Okune on her journey to full recovery. And now listen to this. Kiharu Member of Parliament Dindi Nyoro now says the government may be forced to find alternative sources to fund the education of learners in senior secondary school. If a 22.5 billion shillings debt accrued in 2025 is settled with the current disbursement. Now, the legislator argues that once the debt is settled from the 26 billion shillings capitation released this year, it will leave only 3.5 billion shillings to share among the learners.
Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro says the government will have to rob Peter to pay Paul if it wants to ensure a smooth transition of learners and their retention in senior school.
The person who ends up shouldering this cost is the parent. Because what the principals do, they'll come up with an informal payments that learners are supposed to pay.
The Kiharu Member of Parliament argues that senior secondary school learners are only entitled to 109 Kenya shillings per learner for the first term if a 22.5 billion shilling debt accrued in 2025 is settled with the current disbursement.
This 26 billion shillings is for which term? And this is a very consequential question, even the principals are asking. Because by the close of the academic year of 2025, the government had arrears of capitations for only senior secondary in day schools of 22.5 billion Kenya shillings. And therefore it means the government only released 3.5 billion shillings for the first term, which amounts to around 109 shillings per learner in our senior secondary schools.
Head teachers say that capitation was reduced to 15,384 shillings, despite the ministry affirming that each learner will be accorded 22,244 shillings in the 2026 calendar year.
Serikali nayo imesha kuja na ikasema capitation ni 22,244. Lakini ile pesa walituma katika mashule zetu last year ni shilingi 15,000 na mia kidogo hapo juu. So, kulingana na hiyo inaonyesha ya kwamba principals walifanya bajeti na BOMs na wakabaki na deni ya 6,870 per learner or thereabout. So, kila Mkenya anafaa kufanya ni kutarajia serikali iajibike na ifanye vile inafaa. And by the time you are going to the midterm, we expect the government to have sent the real money for this term. Failure to which we are going to mobilize all the Kenyan parents to demand what is their right. And their right is that they pay taxes. Free basic education has been there in Kenya.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Stewart Mazayo has called for a candid internal dialogue within the ODM party to address the ongoing disagreements that have disrupted the party.
Kifo cha baba Raila Amolo Odinga kimefanya sisi kama wale vifaranga ama ndege tunaruka pande mbalimbali ambapo kwa wale wafuasi wetu wa chama cha ODM kimeleta sintofahamu nyingi.
This as leaders from northern Kenya, led by Dadaab Member of Parliament Farah Maalim, have castigated DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua for spewing ethnic hatred towards the Somali community in the country.
His attacks on Somali-owned businesses are born out of jealousy, envy, and hatred. They amount to ethnic profiling, misinformation, and deliberate attempts to divide Kenyans.
Now, Jubilee Party has come out to defend its leader, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has recently been under fire or attack from a section of politicians led to the broad-based government. Jubilee's deputy leader, Fred Matiang'i, while dismissing the broad-based allied leaders, challenged them to focus on delivering services to Kenyans instead of disrespecting the former head of state with baseless propaganda.
Recent remarks by ODM luminaries accusing the former President Uhuru Kenyatta of duping the late Raila Odinga in the 2022 presidential race, followed by accusations by top UDA politicians that the former head of state was attempting to destabilize the regime of the day, have awakened the Jubilee Party lieutenants.
You are the secretary of ASMIO and you are talking about the chairman of ASMIO.
Why do you need to go to the streets to discuss issues that you're supposed to be discussing? Why do you take them to the street if you are really aggrieved about issues and so on? And your intention is to actually resolve them. Why do you go to the street? Why don't you call a meeting of that organization? And this is why we are talking about orderly, responsive and responsible government.
Those political mercenaries who sabotaged Raila Odinga's victory are well known. And they sit comfortably within the faction of ODM and has since chosen power over principle and transactional politics over ideology.
Azimio la Umoja Coalition Party Secretary General Junet Mohamed recently accused the Jubilee Party leader of sabotaging Raila Odinga 2022 presidential bid by failing to avail funds for paying agents. But the Jubilee Party, led by the Deputy Party leader Fred Matiang'i, in response maintains resources were availed to the Azimio la Umoja Secretariat, and the Secretary General Junet Mohamed was best placed to explain how the resources were used.
Resources were being given to the party, Azimio Party, for purposes of being used for the purpose they were intended, including payment of agents. One of the individuals who is in charge of managing those affairs is the SG. And you know who the SG of Azimio is and was and is even today.
And if anyone has got concerns about those agents who are not paid and so on, shouldn't they then address who hired them? And that, why should it be a national issue? Why you are engaged in trivialities and petty things about which agents were paid and not paid 4 years after the election? How serious are we?
The Jubilee Party further dismissed the UDA politicians who are accusing the former president of attempting to disrupt the current regime by participating actively in politics.
I request our colleagues in the national leadership, we believe they have much more work to do that they need to spend time on, so that they'll spend less time on our party leader, stop attacks on our party leader, and stop dragging our party leader into irrelevancies, things that have nothing to do with him or Jubilee.
Like he said recently, he has a right in this country to talk and say what he needs to say about this nation, because never forget that he too is a citizen of this country.
The Jubilee Party met in Nairobi to strategize how to rebuild ahead of the 2027 general elections.
It takes us to a very short commercial break. Don't go too far. There's still so much more coming your way.